In today's video, we are diving into something that may seem small, but could make or break your AI voice agent's performance. Voicemail detection. Now, if you're tired of your AI voice agents talking to voicemail boxes, don't worry, in this video, I'll show you how to properly implement voicemail detection measures to reduce agent minute usage. Let's jump into it. So firstly, we'll look into VAPI's API reference here to understand voicemail detection properly and how you can start to add voicemail detection to your outbound agents. So natively here in Create Assistant, if we scroll down to voicemail detection as an object, we have 7 different properties that we can choose from. VAPI uses Twilio as its voicemail detection object. This is a model provided by Twilio that's pretty accurate in detecting voicemail activity and terminating a call if it does. We have 7 different detection types we can actually choose from here, including a machine start, a human voicemail, a fax machine, unknown, machine and beep, machine and silence, and other, where we're now able to recognize 80 or 90% of voicemails with accuracy when our agent encounters a voicemail and therefore disconnects the call. It's important to do this with your outbound agents to reduce minute wastage, therefore reducing your agent's overall cost per minute. And it's more important with larger outbound calling campaigns where you could easily chew through a lot of minutes if this isn't set up properly. And most people are familiar with these voicemail detection types, but what's often overlooked are these values here that determine detection timeout, speech threshold, speech end threshold, and silence timeout here. These 4 additional parameters we can start to add to fine-tune and tweak how voicemails are detected in VAPI. Now, to give you an idea of what each one does, we can see here detection timeout is the number of seconds that Twilio should attempt to perform answering machine detection before timing out. Now, the higher the values, the more it waits, the lower, the less it waits before timing out. The next one is detection speech threshold, where this is the number of milliseconds that is used as a measuring stick for the length of speech activity. So durations that are lower then this value will be interpreted as a human, longer as a machine. Next, we have speech end threshold, and this is the number of milliseconds of silence after speech activity is detected. And then finally, we have silence timeout, initial silence after which an unknown answered by result will be returned. Now, to actually understand what these all mean, we can look to Twilio. This is helpful in understanding what each of those values actually mean, which the first one we talked about was detection silence timeout, which is that initial silence during the start of the call that can range in value. So typical with voicemails, you have a period of silence that's pretty constant across most voicemail that would indicate to us that we're about to enter a voicemail message or a greeting. Next, we have this idea of speech threshold. So what time of speech before that final silence typically happens in a voicemail, which would indicate to us that it is in fact a voicemail. And then we have speech end threshold, which is that final silence after the first utterance that typically indicates that we are again in a voicemail. And all these values can be tinkered with to create a more accurate and more reliable voicemail detection system for your VAPI agent. So we'll jump into creating a voicemail detection scaffold that you can use to plug into any AI agents for an outbound application. And VAPI here gives us a nice little scaffold that we can use to tinker with and then plug into our own agent. So if I jump over to JSON editor over here, on the right hand side, we have a typical agent scaffold that we may use on an outbound number to call people, to qualify them, to book meetings and so forth. And you'll note here that we do not have a section that determines voicemail activity. If we go here to the left and paste in a voicemail detection scaffold, you'll see we're using Twilio and we have those voicemail detection types. Similar to what we have here, only now we may add our own. So we can start to add human. So those human pre-recorded voicemails. We can also add fax as well. Now, a lot of the time, fax you're not going to run into, but for the purposes of this video, we'll add our own. We've got unknown. Maybe we want to capture any unknown or ambiguous voicemails that aren't really recognized in Twilio's voicemail detection algorithm. Next, we may want to add other as well. So any other machine and style things. And what we can do here is input some values here that I've used in the past and what's recommended to use to capture everything. And those are starting with detection timeout. So remember our first detection timeout. So that initial silence before the utterance. Now it's recommended here to use between 3 and 59 seconds. A good rule of thumb is to sort of go in between, well, not really in between, towards the higher end of that at 45 seconds. Next, we have speech threshold. So this utterance section of a voicemail, and the most typical and most reliable millisecond to use is between 1,000 and 6,000. So I'll use 2,400 milliseconds. Moving on to our speech end threshold, you'll want to use again sort of in between at 2,400. And then finally, silence timeout. This we can do anywhere between 6,000 and 7,000 milliseconds. So we want to sit at around 6,000. And these are just some generalist starting recommendations. And the best settings are really going to depend on your specific use case and the sort of voicemail call patterns that you encounter. So continuous testing here and fine tuning of these values are going to be based on your actual call data. But for a starting point, these are some great values to use. And like I mentioned before, on the right here, we have a very basic outbound lead qualification scaffold here that's not yet been embedded with a voicemail detection system. And all you have to do here is copy this and place it under server messages here. And now your outbound AI agent scaffold is equipped with voicemail detection. So a very powerful and often overlooked tool when it comes to outbound AI voice agents that can really save you some minute usage and overall cost with these agents. Now we can take this and put it in an HTTP post request body to start distributing calls, and we're going to be able to handle those voicemail detections and terminate the call to reduce that cost. So utilizing voicemail detection within your agent scaffold is a very reliable and accurate method for pre and post call voicemail detection, and it saved me hours of client data analysis where you have to go through transcripts and manually see if they were genuine calls or not. Anyway, a shorter one for you guys here today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button to stay ahead of the AI voice agent space. I upload weekly and provide as much value as I can. If you're a business owner looking to implement AI voice agents in your business, check out the link below and we can get in touch. But that is it for today. Until next week.